Texas this week banned TikTok on government devices, citing national security concerns over the app's ties to China. Maryland, South Dakota, South Carolina, and Nebraska have all implemented bans on the popular video platform. For years, U.S. officials have warned about China's ability to access and share American users' data. Just last week, FBI Director Christopher Wray said the app is in the hands of a government that, quote, doesn't share our values. For more, let's bring in Robert Anderson. He's the chairman and CEO of Cyber Defense Labs, a cybersecurity firm that helps companies detect and manage cyber risks. Robert, you support the TikTok ban on government-issued devices. What's the national security concern?
Oh, 100%, Catherine. I think the concern is all about data. It's not just data that the device might have access to on your phone or in a laptop or on a computer system, but also the data that will probably be tracking of all the employees that would have it on their phone. They know their whereabouts, what they like, where they like to go, who they like to meet, where they like to socialize. That's all risk for the government. And then the biggest part of it, quite frankly, is if that device could be used as a delivery vehicle of some type of malware or software that could scrape documents from those government computers. It's a big risk.
So should state governments, even the federal government, have acted sooner?
I don't know if they should act sooner. I think they need to be educated on this. It's the world of cyber nowadays is so complex.
Yeah.
But when you look at China and you look at anything coming out of China, especially when it comes to collecting of data against one of its major adversaries, which is the United States, they do it any way they can, and they're very good at it. And I think it's one of the things now that looks like it's catching up, at least for the governments, especially with the governors across the United States, is they're starting to look at this and focus on it much more thoroughly.
So let's take that a step further. Is TikTok part of a broader strategy by the Chinese Communist Party to gather personal data and ultimately use it to their advantage?
Well, I got to tell you, China's data collection policy in all the years I worked against them haven't changed. They collect data any way they can through their traditional intelligence services, the MSS and the 2POA and the 3POA. It's the equivalent of our NSA and CIA and FBI. But they go a step further. They'll use their military, they'll use the private sector businesses, they'll use students, visiting scholars, and they really like to collect data from any company that they're looking at from a military or economic challenge point. The United States is definitely that. And the one thing they do, I think better than any country in the world, is collect that data from different points, correlate it, and then wait at a time that suits them to use it against potentially their adversary.
So once they aggregate that data, how can it be used in practical terms against American citizens?
Well, I think the easiest thing to look at when we talk about that is access. It gives you access to people, it gives you access to devices, and it gives you access to the infrastructure. And they get to pick the time and the place and where they're going to launch those types of attacks. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this. You can't look at just one thing. You need to look at the totality of what China's actually doing.
We just had a clip earlier in the show from the Treasury Secretary who talked about the data potentially being in Chinese hands. I mean, is the data already in Chinese hands as far as you know?
Oh, I can guarantee it. Look, in the United States, we've got laws and you got a constitution. And if the government comes to you as a private sector company and says, do me a favor, can you help me? You can walk away and there's no harm, no foul. In China, that does not work like that. If you're a company in China and China asks you to help them, you're going to give them the data. So if it's in China, China has either access to that data or they've already got the data stored somewhere that they can reach it. You just need to look at the overall threat from China when it comes to breaches in the last few years, Catherine. We can look at Equifax, OPM, Anthem, all those I was involved in. That data has never come up for sale anywhere. And that's unusual, right? Because criminal organizations make money off of this. China, they're waiting and they're going to use it someday, unfortunately.
It's an excellent point. Robert Anderson, thanks.
Thank you, Catherine.